Yes?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah.
Good. Yesterday we discussed roadmap, right? We discussed the roadmap and what is MVC. Okay. The list of topics I can say. First we start with old Spring framework. Basics of Spring framework we will learn. Then on top of it, Spring Boot we can start. We can directly start from Spring Boot also, and we can include all the discussions. But if you get a chance to work on any old applications which are having Spring old framework, many banking applications still they are running in old framework only. Old framework in the sense that XML based configurations, that all you will see. Spring Boot is not having any such big configurations. Okay. Um, the creating of Spring Boot application and implementation, everything is simple here. So we will be seeing few discussions on old framework basics, how to create bean, how objects are getting created, what are all the containers we have. Those basics we will discuss so that by the time we start Spring Boot and Spring Boot auto configurations, internals easily you can understand. And followed by Spring Boot with Jdbc, ORM, Spring MVC, REST-based implementations, other Spring Boot concepts, actuators, dev tools, blah, blah, blah. We have so many things. Then AOP, Spring Boot schedulers, mail API, other miscellaneous concepts, Webflux, and AI. I can say many things. DeepSeek, Code Llama, we can see them. You can build your own AI. And followed by microservices. How to convert from monolithic to microservices, or how to change your thought process or your idea. Earlier, we have a mindset to create monolith applications. How to prepare ourselves if there is a requirement, how to create that requirements as a microservice based application. So thought process, ideology, or our way of thinking, how to change from monolithic to microservices. Then how to implement, what are all the challenges that we have, what are all good practices that we should follow while creating microservices. We will be discussing all that from documentation onwards to design patterns, load balancing, gateways, maintaining logs, maintaining tracing, track of each request, retry mechanisms, cloud-based configurations, Docker and Kubernetes, we'll see. Then we started about MVC. What is MVC? Anyway, okay. If you keep all the topics aside, to implement any application, to implement the .NET, you say PHP or Python, use any technology, Node.js for implementing your application backend side or including backend and front end. We follow MVC architecture pattern, model view controller. View can be handled by Angular or React by following MVM, or you can have plain view also. Sir, I know HTML, JavaScript. I don't want Angular. You can create your own, HTML based, plain HTML JavaScript based view also. It is up to the project specific requirement. Now coming to backend, the view portion front end covered, backend portion controller and model. You need to implement here. Controllers responsibility read data from the front end. Once you read, you can do validations and apply security also here, as this is the first layer. If you pass request beyond this layer to the next layer, that data will be considered as good data. So even before going to the next layer, you may do validations, you may apply security, whatever you want to do upfront. Before sending it to your business logic, you can do it from controller. The main purpose of controller is read, do validations. Next, send it to service. Then service will handle business code, whatever business algorithm you have implemented, plus minus into divided by whatever functionality you have. Beyond that, if you want to control transactions you can apply. In addition to that, any email services, etc., any additional utilities if you have, you can implement them. Sometimes you may have kali, schedulers. That time you will not have front end and controllers also. Only service and repository portion you can have. Yes, some services may run in a given time interval. Jobs you can create, that jobs will run and process and completes. Such jobs also you can create. Schedulers. The next, repository. Finally, I read data, I send it to service, and finally repository. Repository should help you to do handle CRUD operations, insert, update, delete, selects on your DB, whatever DB it is, SQL or no SQL. So for any use case, we understand that for any use case, if it is having front end and back end, front end portion, either I can handle or Angular or React application can handle. Post that, I need to implement controller service repository. Finally, after learning all the Spring concepts, where I will be applying them on these layers only. Spring security help you to handle security for this controller part. Even before controller, you can say, if some request wants to reach to controller, it need to pass security first. Authentication and authorization. Is that user is having access to my application, and is that user able to call my post method to insert data? Authorization. Few people may create data, few people may only read the data. Admins may create, other roles may not able to create. That authorization checks also you can do here, authentication and authorization. So many techniques in it. And to implement this controller portion, for non-reactive, we follow Spring MVC. For reactive-based applications, Webflux, you can use. Or combination we can implement. Then next, for service layer, Spring Core. Basically, core we use across. I cannot say this is the one which we use across, not only specific to this. Spring Core everywhere. It is disturbing screen. Okay. Spring Core is everywhere to handle basic, to create basic all the controller service repositories, everything we use core module. For dependency injections, we use core module. For objects creation, we use core module, which means everywhere you need core module. Whatever we learn or whatever concepts we have from core, we use everywhere. In addition to core, we will use security concepts, MVC concepts, reactive concepts or transactions, whatever you have. And Spring transaction, mailing, scheduler, AOP, all that modules you can use for this service layer. For repository, you can use Spring Jdbc ORM, data JPA. And as I said, right, Spring Core is everywhere. This is the base platform module. Without core, in this core, you have container, okay, IOC containers. Without this container, you cannot run even single class. These containers are very important. Okay. Yeah. Now followed by Spring Cloud concepts. That is okay. So first, as we understand, sir, to implement any application, we should follow MVC, right? You all agree? To implement any application, we should follow MVC, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We should follow MVC. Now, in MVC, you understand that to cover Vue, we have different frameworks like Angular and React. If you are not using Angular and React, you can use HTML also, correct? You can use your HTML also. Now coming to backend portion, controller services repositories, we should implement. If you have front-end activities, front-end side CRUD operations, save, update, delete pages if you want to control them, or if you want to redirect some pages, if you want to load some pages, you need backend help. So for this backend help, you need framework help or any technology help to implement controllers. Sir, is Spring only can do all these means? No, servlets earlier used to help here. Controllers we used to implement by using servlet API. For handling transactions, all this stuff, EJBs we used to use. For repository plain Jdbc we used to use. Sir, we have them. Why these alternates? Already servlets designed in 1995 itself. EJBs around 98 or 2000. I don't know many of you born or not. Jdbc since 1995, the first version of Java itself. Why Spring? And why they are calling it as a framework? We have other alternatives also to implement them. Why should I go with all these modules? Means the pain point is technology which was there the years before was a plain core technology. That was a very plain core technology they given. If you want to implement, you should be expert to create your application. You should follow so many good design patterns. You should well aware of all the good design patterns. Then only you can able to implement it. Apart from that, you need to use special containers to run them. When it is a servlet, you need to use Apache Tomcat, a web container. When it is EJB, you should use WebLogic or WebSphere. So technology side, as a developer, if I think I need to learn a lot, I need to spend a lot of time to learn, and I should have so much patience to implement them as well. Lot of code I need to write. From business point of view, if I think they have to invest a lot on you. Whatever job you are doing, if there was a framework like Spring, using Spring framework, if you try to deliver it, if you are taking time 6 months on old technology, using Spring, you may cover it in 1 month. Business side, I can see 5 months before I can get the product, and in 1 month only, with 1 month pay itself, I can able to deliver my product. And when you implement your application using servlets or EJBs, you have to deploy them into application containers. I must buy license for production environment. Yearly, I may need to pay like $1,000 or 2,000 or $10,000. That is also unnecessary burden to me. Apart from server, processor, hard disk, RAM, that also I should buy. I need to pay licenses also for the softwares. That's all unnecessary to me. I mean, that time we don't have any alternatives. That was the choice. But now they made it very simple. Sir, you are saying we need to use Tomcat, WebLogic when we go with EJBs, and you are saying very difficult to write. It will take a lot of time. How they reduced it? These all are, framework APIs, framework libraries. When I use a term framework is having a well-designed classes templates, reusable classes, reusable templates. Any framework, right? When they say it's a framework, they will provide so many reusable classes and templates to make our job easy. Means earlier, if I need to write a code here, 1,000 lines of code to fulfill a requirement, framework will understand that 1,000 lines of code, why unnecessarily developers spending a lot of time to write everywhere. The same similar or common logic, if I see across 10 controllers, you are writing almost 500 lines of common logic also. As you are not following good practices, or as you may not aware of good practices, then what I realized that, okay, let me create a reusable classes, templates with all best practices and provide as a framework, so that when you try to use that framework, you need not to write the same repeated logic again and again as I have given as part of framework. Your job becomes simple here. Earlier, whatever code you used to write in 1,000 lines, you may cover it in 100 lines or 10 lines. The remaining already there in the framework. That is doing it for you. I mean, a simple example I'm trying to say, okay, framework is covering everything for us internally. Just you should know how to plug and play. You should learn how to use this, how to plug this, modules, and how to play around. That's it. And earlier we used to have containers dependency. Without containers, we were not able to run all these classes. Our backend I'm implementing, but lot of cost happening. I'm putting on Tomcat and WebLogic, all that stuff. When it comes to Springs, especially Spring Boot, you doesn't require any backend container. Spring itself, it is having IOC container to run all your classes. Containers are nothing but, you can say, server, like your Tomcat, WebLogic. What they do, Tomcat will create servlet objects. WebLogic will create EJB objects. Your Spring IOC container will create all the Spring objects. Tomcat used to create servlet objects for controller. Whenever you, earlier when we use servlets here, Tomcat used to create that servlet objects. While we were using EJBs here, WebLogic used to create that objects. Or in WebLogic, servlets and EJB, both objects also you can create. WebLogic is a web and application container. But that is a additional duty, additional configuration I need to do and deploy into them. But here, not required. Spring saying, you don't worry about any containers. Just follow what I'm saying. Write a controller with the REST controller. Write a service with @service. Write a repository with @repository. Remaining, leave it to me. You don't touch anything. You need not to worry. Do you have a machine, server machine? Go there and run my application. I will run. You need not to do anything extra. I'll take care. My container itself will behave like a server, IOC container. So the people who understand the pain from EJBs and servlets, all that, right? They started creating frameworks. They made Java development life simple and easy. Otherwise, it used to be very tough. Why Spring Boot became very popular comparing with other technologies means it became very simple for development, business friendly. Any big requirement you can finish it in on the fly in a weeks. All the difficult area where exactly we used to have so much pain, that they covered as part of framework. Only whatever customizations you required. Let's say I want to read data, just read it. That read task, even DB operations also, like how simplified is. You have presentation view. From you need to read data. Let's say if you are a backend developer, you need not to worry about even the view. Just you need to write controller. Yes, we use something like REST controller. And we create one post method or get method public. A return type, let's say if you want to return some string response. On the REST controller class with the post mapping or get mapping. And your input object directly you can give here, let's say user object. You can pass here. That's it, your implementation is done. Hardly in 2-3 lines. The next service. So am I using @service? We implement it. And required methods, whatever methods you want, you can put them here, followed by repository. See hardly how many lines code I'm adding. For service, I'll create one class and one method. For controller, one controller class with REST controller and one post mapping method. Repository, zero logic. You need not to write any logic. Repository, we extend from JPA repository. And we'd say it is for user object. And this is my primary key type. That's it. Imagine you are not writing anything. Spring will generate the code for you. That's it. Your end-to-end operation is done. Directly right click and run it. It will run. Not even server required. What I'm trying to say here, they simplified it. Our life, development life, become very simple and easier. Implementation becomes simple. Testing became simple. Debugging becomes simple. Earlier, we don't have that luxury. Usually, Angular applications that we used to generate by using command line. It used to generate all the components and dependencies. When we ng install something, we do it used to pull all the dependencies. Something they, I don't know. Spring is not the first framework such a kind, but some frameworks I think they saw and they try to implement in a similar way, and they made it very simple. So you need not to be a great expert to implement the Spring applications. If you know basics how to create, you can create it. Earlier, to create project skeleton itself used to take a lot of time. But here, nothing. You create, I create. Even first day session, if one guy here a session, after day one, he also can create. He need not to spend his whole time to learn until he become old. He can start from day one. He can play around. Such a simple framework it is. It was very difficult before. Okay, anyway. Now the framework. We are talking about framework. The framework made things easy by following all the best practices, best patterns. They made it simple. That's the reason I'm talking about all the modules here. They given templates, predefined some classes templates to make our controller implementation or service implementation, repository implementation simple based on the style which you want to implement. Sir, which combination should I go? Sir, you given Jdbc, Hibernate, JPA. It's depending on your project requirement. If your project says use Jdbc, you should use Spring Jdbc. If project says go with data JPA, you can go with data JPA. Or if project says you need to use old style of Spring ORM, you can use. Depending on your requirement, you can pick the modules. Sir, only these list of modules only available in Spring means no. Hundreds of modules given. But these are the main and important modules. Usually after core and MVC, JDBC and data JPA, you should able to based on requirements. Sir, in future we are covering these. You are saying hundreds of other modules we have. How can I learn, sir? You can easily. Lot of documentation available from Spring. When you identify a special requirement for your project and that module, I'm not aware, sir, you can read through it and cover it easily. They will provide example. This is how you need to put the logic. That's it. The remaining way of coding, way of putting annotations, everything that you already have, easily you can adopt new modules also in future if you encounter anything. Okay. Now we need to talk about containers. As I was saying, if it is a servlet application, servlets are for controller purely. Servlet applications, we used to, convert them. Let's say if this app name is product management system. Okay, my application name is product management system. This application, we used to convert it as a PMS var file, web archive file. We used to export it as a web archive. And finally, this web archive, we used to keep it into container. Let's say Tomcat. We used to deploy it into Tomcat. And when we start Tomcat, it will read this PMS var file. It will extract PMS var. And it will start running your servlets. Same way. If it is a enterprise application along with servlets, if you have business logic, which is covering the transactions and all using EJBs, we convert this it into ER file, enterprise archive file. It can have var and jar. Servlets will be var file. Servlets we convert it into var. EJBs we convert it into jar. Both combined, we will make it as a ER, enterprise archive file. And here we use WebLogic or WebSphere containers, JBoss, any application server. They will have two portions again. They will have two portions, WebLogic or WebSphere. They will have internally servlet container and EJB container. They will have two portions, servlet, EJB. Two containers they will have internally. So servlet var file they will deploy into servlet container, EJB jar they will deploy into EJB container. Both will be managed. Tomcat will have only servlet container. When I say Tomcat, it will have only servlet container. It is specialized for servlets only. Okay. Now coming to Spring. Coming to Spring. Here we see these container dependencies we have coming to Spring. Sir, if I implement Spring, same application by using Spring, if I do, for my product management system, here if I use Spring MVC for controller and Spring transactions to control transactions, Spring security, Spring data JPA, all such I used here, sir. Spring MVC will have some controllers logic and different enterprise logic we have here. Security, transactions, then CRUD operations, data JPA. Finally, where should I run them? Finally, where all these classes should I run? And what type of export file it is a var or jar or ER file. Okay. So finally, you will be converting them into jar only, whether it is a web application or enterprise application. You need to convert it as a jar, means PMS jar. Just jar is enough. And where should I run it? Spring itself means you need not to download or you need not to do anything additional. Okay. We'll run command like this. Jar command we will run. Java -jar bms.jar. That's it. We give a jar command. You know, right? Java execution command. That's it. It starts internally embedded Tomcat. Tomcat will create only one class object, a dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet will call your IOC container. IOC container will create all objects. Tomcat is embedded one. So the embedded Tomcat will create dispatcher servlet, which is there in your MVC. That dispatcher servlet will call IOC. IOC will create all other objects. Sir, I have 100 classes. In my application, I have total of 100 classes. My custom classes, 100 classes, sir. All 100 classes objects your IOC will create. There is a framework class called DS, dispatcher servlet. That will be created by your embedded Tomcat. The Tomcat also you are not going to install or deploy. That will come from by default. The default container, default Tomcat is available. Embedded Tomcat. So there are so many techniques to change that also. Instead of Tomcat, Jetty, Undertow, depending on your application requirement, we can change them as well. Okay. So easily you can plug and play. Not too difficult. And you have tools also to create this application. Earlier, I have to create a Maven project and I need to borrow all the dependencies, lot of code I need to write. But to create this application, you have tools. STS you can use. Spring Initializer, there is a web tool. And Spring Boot CLI we have. It is very simple to use them and generate skeleton. Earlier, we need to wait for experts who can able to create project skeleton. On top of it, we can able to write the code. But now, yourself, you will be expert. You can go to STS and generate a project in a minute. And you can start working on it and you can run. Okay. Quickly, I'll show you one application. Very quickly, I'll create one application and show you. Hope my ID is
Uh,
visible.
Dispatcher servlet daemon thread or what?
Sorry,
Is dis is dispatcher servlet in Tomcat a daemon thread or normal class?
it is a servlet class.
Acha.
Dispatch servlet itself is a servlet.
Okay.
I'll tell you, they followed some good. I was saying, right, framework will follow good practices, good design patterns, and they create it. So they followed front controller design pattern and created it. So any traffic, it will hit to dispatcher servlet first. Dispatcher servlet will distribute to your classes. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Now I'm creating a simple project Hello World in Spring Boot. Hope my ID is visible.
Yes, sir.
Going to new project, Spring Boot, Spring Boot starter project, Hello World. Next, Spring Web, finish. My project skeleton is getting ready. Earlier to do this, even myself, if I try to create a web project, I used to take at least 1 hour time to add all the dependencies, create a POM file, checking it whether it is working or not. Now, hardly I don't think 10 seconds it took to me to create. It is ready. And the other challenge is I need to download Tomcat and I should check whether the Tomcat server will work or not. Server.port is equal to something 91, 91, 91. Done. So basic application is created. I can go and run. Application will start. Application is started. 91, 91 is already in use. No problem. Hello world, restart. Started hello world application in 91, 91. Your application literally started. Localhost 91, 91. White label error page. It is okay. It is saying there is no page, sir. You have not created any page, but I started. It is started your application. When you observe this page means your application is running, but there is no default endpoint that is trying to say. If I want any page, I can create, or if I want to create any endpoint, now controller, right? As I was saying, hello controller, I want to implement hello controller. At the rate rest controller, public string hello at the rate request param Okay, I'm creating a get mapping here. Hello. So in request param, you can pass name is equal to value so that it will give you response back. Let's restart this application. Now a hello endpoint is ready. Hello dot request parameter I used, right? Question mark name equal to Naveen. Hello Naveen, it is giving. Let me print my name here, whichever I'm giving. Let me restart. Refresh. I can see my name, it is printing. Just give me a minute. I want to show you something. Just a minute, almost. You can download this one. It will be, it can generate public endpoint, okay? So that you can share your local application with public audience for testing purpose. Now I want to do the same. Anyway, this version, problem with this version is Anjireddy HTTP 9191. You can download version 1. New version will not allow more than one application.
What is this mgrok, sir?
Just to create one public endpoint.
Acha.
I want to during practice, to show the um, parallel threads, right? How we can execute. I used to use this one.
Do you mean to expose a dummy service?
No, to expose my local services to you all to test it, right? During
Okay, okay.
a session, sometimes parallel threads we need to run, parallel we should run and see how application performing, performance testing. So we hit,
Okay.
I hit from my side, you also can hit from your end. We have time next 5 minutes, right? Let me try to get it. Okay. uh, I used to have old version also, but it's gone somewhere. Again, this is same version. NG rock, where are you? Better I search here NG rock. Can you also search from your end? I need old version, version 1 or 2, not the 3. Let's show with this one. Basically, whichever local port we have, that we should able to. Oh, it is not even allowing to run this one. Okay. See this one endpoint got generated. Let me share this link with you. You can try just by changing your name. First, you will see visit site, that warning page. You click on it, okay? Are you guys trying? Change the name and hit it. I see. One more hit. Are you all trying?
Yes, sir.
No, change the name and hit it, okay? I think you are entering. Anyway, that is working. You all able to access. So this is how we can create public endpoint for testing it, okay? Generally local I can do myself, but it will be more interactive. You also can see what I'm doing here. And any small POCs if you want to do and share it with others, this is best way, okay? Yeah, where we are, I was saying it is very simple to create and use Spring Boot based applications. If you ask me, this is in other technology, it will be very difficult. We cannot finish it in just like that. But here, simple to create and manage. Okay, I'm not going to jumping into web sessions directly. Okay, first baby steps. We will start with the basic what is container, how to create Spring Beans. That's where we start. Okay, slowly one by one, we'll move till there. We'll start here Spring Core. Okay. Any questions?
Sir, are we going to cover concepts of transaction management also?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything apart from it? We'll cover. We'll cover it. Okay. Okay. If no questions, I'll wrap for today. Hope all you joined the WhatsApp group, right, which I shared. Anyone not joined it?
Yeah, yes, join.
I will give that list of softwares, Srikanth. Java we need to install, or quickly let me put them here. I'll give all the links. Okay, maybe tomorrow session. You need to install Java. Install latest. Okay, Java 17. Keep Java 17. Java 17 is the least version that you should have. And if you have Java 8 also, that is well and good. Java 8 also you can. And you can install STS, Spring Tool Suite, Spring Tool Suite also required. And you should have Oracle. I'll share you that Oracle 10G I have. Install MySQL or Oracle. One version is enough for you. Usually I'll show examples in both MySQL, Oracle, MongoDB also. If laptop having enough space, install all of them. Okay. I think that is it. These are enough for you. Postman for API testing. Okay. Install Postman also. Okay. Make a screenshot of it. Yes. You can make screenshot of it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Java 2 versions, Java 8 and 17. Try to get both the versions. Okay. STS you can get latest. MySQL, Oracle I'll share you. Oracle 10G I have. I'll share it. You can download MySQL, MongoDB, and Postman. MongoDB, Postman, not immediate requirements, but you can download. For now, I need Java 8 and STS at least. Okay.
Okay, sir.
That's good. Yeah, let's meet tomorrow, same time. Till then, have a good day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.